not say anything.
Don't say anything.
About real life. And y'all did a really good job asserting your rights, and it was cool. But there are lots of situations where real people who know their rights get in situations with the cops where they may decide that they're not going to assert their rights, like you laid it out here. What are reasons that people might have for deciding not to assert their rights?
Intimidation.
Yeah. Like fear. Fear of what?
That they'll do anything.
Well, just interaction with the cops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like being nervous.
Yeah.
Like you made me think about when I got arrested. I was just like,
Yeah. So people are often afraid they're going to make the cops angry. They may be afraid they're going to make the cops suspicious, right? A lot of people will say they just want to get through the encounter as quickly as possible, right? Like not make any waves, just kind of like, give them what they need and move on and everything will be fine. Of course, a lot of times people will cooperate with the cops because they figure they're not doing anything illegal, right? They don't have anything to hide, that kind of thing. And the reality is, of course, that when a cop stops you, pulls you over on the side of the road, stops you on the street, that kind of thing, sometimes if you cooperate with them, they'll just send you on your way and leave you alone, right? It happens all the time. If we just smile and we say, yes, officer, okay, officer, they'll just be like, okay, run along and don't cause any trouble, right? The problem is that when we do that, when we cooperate with them and give them what we want or what they want, we're giving all the power to them in that encounter. We're giving all the power to decide what happens in this encounter to the cops. And we're basically trusting that when we give them this power, that they're going to smile upon us and decide to let us go. And even though that happens a lot of the time, what we're worried about is the situation where it doesn't. The problem is that there are cops out there that for whatever reason they may have decided that they don't like the look of you, that they have a quota of arrests to make that week, that they're just pissed off because of their marriage or whatever shit, and they want to take you down. And the problem is when a cop approaches you, you never know if it's the cop who's going to let you off because you were nice to him, or if it's the cop who's going to exploit the fact that you're cooperating with him to take you down for 5 years, for 10 years, for Troy Davis's case, fucking death, right? So I think it's important when we're in a situation with cops to realize that we're not making a decision between, do I want to have a pleasant interaction with a cop or do I want to, have a pissed off interaction with a cop? We're making a decision between whether we want to piss off a cop or whether we want to potentially put ourselves in a situation where we could be going to jail for years. And I think when you look at a situation like that, it's a lot more clear what the safe option is, right? I'd rather make a cop pissed off at me and suspicious of me than expose myself to that kind of danger. And there's a lot of more specific reasons why, for example, you shouldn't talk to the cops. For one thing, talking to the cops is not going to make them go easy, right? That's not how cops work. For another, you may believe that you have nothing to hide, right? That you aren't breaking any laws, but you may be wrong. There are, 10,000 different ways that we could be breaking the laws. There's all these different laws upon laws upon laws. And we don't know them. I don't know them. I've been giving this training and I don't know that shit. Probably, really kick-ass lawyers don't know all those ways. The cops know enough of them to get us in trouble because that's their job. They go around getting people in trouble with the law all the time. You may accidentally say something to the cops that admits to a crime that you didn't realize was a crime, right? So if the cops are like, where were you when this store was robbed last night? And you're like, I was just taking a walk in the park on the other side of town. Well, maybe that park closes at 8 p.m. You just admitted that you were in the park after dark, right? So you admitted to a crime. If that cop wants to take you down for that, they can do that. Okay, another thing is, even if you really haven't committed any crimes, you know all 10,000 of them, and you know that you didn't do any of them, in talking with a cop, you may accidentally lie. Tell a white lie. And lying to the police is in itself a crime. They can lie to us, but if we lie to them, it's a crime. So you can see how this conversation is already kind of unbalanced, right? So if the cop is like, have you ever been to that store that was held up? And you're like, no, I've never even seen that place. I don't know anything about it. Well, it turns out, 3 months ago, to cast suspicion on you, to get you further in trouble with the cops, right? So if the cop is asking you about graffiti, and you're like, yeah, but look, man, me and my friends are into graffiti, but we only ever do it on legal walls. We would never mess up somebody's property. What that cop is going to write down is, admitted him and friends were into graffiti, right? Now you have a prime suspect. So you can't trust that, the truthful legal statements that you made are going to be used against you. And of course, beyond any of that, if you talk to the police, you may accidentally give the police reason to go suspect and harass the police. So if the cops are asking you who you saw at the corner and you're like, it was just, nobody special, just Jim and Bob were always hanging out there. Now the cops are going to go and harass Jim and Bob, who knows what's going to happen. And similar kinds of things go for searches, right? You may not think that you have anything illegal on you. You may think that you're clean, but you may be wrong. I mean, for one thing, like maybe you're borrowing your friend's pants and it's got a hot seat in the pocket. You don't want to find that out when the cops start searching your pants and you're like, oh, what is that? For another thing, like what is the legal length for a pocket knife?
10 inches? 3 inches. 3 inches.
Yeah, what about in Fulton County? I don't know. There's a lot of misconceptions about this. There's all kinds of laws like that we could all be breaking right now. And we might not figure out that we were breaking them until a cop decides to arrest us. Beyond that, even if you know all of the laws about what things are illegal to have, legal things that you possess can get you in more suspicion and be targeted by the police. For example, if you just got paid a whole bunch of tips from working at a restaurant and you're walking home, the cops stop you when you're carrying a lot of cash, they may decide that you're on your way to a drug deal, or that you just got back from a drug deal, right? If you have a bunch of markers in your bag that are the same color as graffiti that was written on the bus stop, they may decide that you are the suspect of that graffiti. These are things that are illegal to carry, right? But they can still be used to get you in trouble. So it's really hard to keep track of all of these things that can get you in trouble. All of the potential things that you might accidentally say in a conversation with a cop. All the things that you might be carrying that could possibly, cause any kind of suspicious or be illegal in themselves. And the fact is, it's not really possible to keep track of all these things and protect yourself against everyone individually. And that's why we have this really simple script. If you say, I'm going to remain silent, and you stick to that, you don't have to worry about what you're going to say and how it's going to reflect and whether it's going to make them suspicious or not. If you say, I don't consent to a search, then they're never going to find any of the many things that could potentially get you in trouble, right? And another thing that's important to understand about suspicion, right? People are concerned about asserting their rights because they think it'll make the police suspicious of them. Asserting your rights is very strongly legally protected. The police cannot use the fact that you refused to answer their questions or didn't want to let them search as an excuse to heighten their suspicion of you, right? So they couldn't, for example, say, oh, you won't answer my questions, now I want to search you, right? Or, you won't let me search you, now I'm going to arrest you for not letting me search you. You're protected when you assert your rights. In fact, you're so protected that if you do get arrested, the prosecution in your case is not allowed to even bring up the fact that you, say, refused to search or wouldn't answer police questions in court. They're not even allowed to tell the jury that in an effort to make you look suspicious. Now, if you say anything else to the police, or if you do consent to a search, any of that can be used against you, right? Anything you say or do can be used and will be used against you. They're not fucking around.